When will humanity enter its golden age? According to the calendar, this should happen in 2084. However, even now, the future of our civilization hangs in the balance. Our planet is entirely dependent on three forces that can take humanity either to incredible heights or send it into complete chaos. What will the world be like when the first human colonies emerge beyond the confines of our home planet? Will we become a fully fledged interplanetary species by 2084? We're almost exactly halfway through the 21st century, and that means the predictions made about what our world would be like today are finally coming true. And in some ways, the world of 2023 resembles the future envisioned for us by science fiction writers from decades past. But there are also things that nobody could have predicted. So how does our world compare with the world of tomorrow? Now, just over half a century ago, a group of scientists and science fiction authors came together at a conference to discuss what the year 2084 might look like. Their ideas were published in the pages of Collier's magazine, and while many of their predictions were spot on, others were way off the mark. But it turns out they accurately predicted the most important aspect of our future. They understood that our fate in 2084 will depend on the decisions we make today regarding three key areas of human activity. This is what will determine whether humanity enters its golden age or faces total destruction. Megacities. One of the primary concerns raised by the experts back in 1962 was how to accommodate the rapidly growing global population. Even then, it was clear that if humanity kept growing at its current rate, it would eventually run out of habitable land. There were two possible solutions proposed back then. The first one was to move people to other planets. In the latter half of the 20th century, scientists became increasingly confident that space travel was not only possible but also relatively safe, and moving people to other planets was seen as a viable solution to overpopulation. The second option was vertical construction, with more and more people needing to live in less and less space. Building upwards instead of outwards made a lot of sense. In 2084, according to the 1960s vision of the future, megacities would house billions of people. They would be full of skyscrapers and high-speed transportation systems. Sounds familiar? Well, this is pretty much exactly what we have now. Back then, nobody even imagined that there would be self-driving cars everywhere, but everything else is basically as predicted. And we owe all of these amazing innovations to the computer. In the mid-20th century, nobody really knew just how important computers would become in our lives. They were huge, expensive machines, used mostly by governments and universities. But even so, everyone could see how quickly the technology was developing. If computers were already this powerful in the early 1960s, imagine what they'd be capable of just a few decades later. Nobody foresaw the rise of artificial intelligence, but it was clear that computers would be an integral part of our lives, and this has turned out to be true. Today, there are more computers per person than any other consumer product. And that was not really surprising considering how quickly the technology developed in the 20th century. But even back then, people saw how important the computer would become in our lives, and yet they did not predict the true potential of the machine's energy. In the 1960s, the world was in the midst of an energy revolution. For centuries, wood was the primary source of energy for humans. But after the Industrial Revolution, coal became king. It powered factories, trains, and entire cities. And then oil became the preferred fuel for transportation. But everyone could see that fossil fuels would eventually run out. So what would we use for energy once that happened? Nuclear power was obviously the answer. And the experts of the time predicted that by 2084, nuclear fusion would be providing clean and nearly limitless energy to our homes. Unfortunately, that prediction has not come true. It still has UNT because UNT managed to create a sustained nuclear fusion reaction that could provide more energy than it consumes. But we've come very close, and we may actually be able to achieve this breakthrough within the next decade or so. After all, the experts back in the 60s were very optimistic. They thought that fusion reactors would be powering our homes by 2084. But what if they're wrong? What if we don't manage to harness the power of the stars here on Earth? Would this spell doom for humanity? Not necessarily. Even though our experts were wrong about nuclear fusion, they were right about one thing. Our dependence on fossil fuels would cause major problems, and they were also correct in thinking that solar energy would become an important factor. After all, why rely on nuclear fusion when the sun provides us with more than enough energy every day? All we need to do is capture it. but they thought that solar panels would only become efficient enough to power our homes by 2084. Turns out that is not the case. Solar panels are becoming cheaper and more efficient every year, but once again, the experts were wrong. They didn't predict the rise of cryptocurrency mining. Because of this, thousands of megawatts worth of solar panels have been installed in deserts across the globe to mine Bitcoin. In fact, cryptocurrency mining has become such a problem that even countries like Venezuela are banning it because they need the electricity for their own citizens. The environment. In the 1960s, the idea that humans could change the climate of the entire planet was just beginning to gain traction. Scientists were starting to understand that human activities were causing changes in the composition of the atmosphere, leading to a gradual warming of the planet. While this knowledge was still fairly new, it was clear that if humans continued to pollute the environment without restraint, the consequences could be disastrous. And this is something that the experts in 1962 got right. Back then, they had no idea just how big of a problem pollution would become, but they understood that humans could destroy the environment if they weren't careful. And even though we haven't destroyed the planet yet, we've caused some serious damage. One of the biggest environmental issues that the experts identified was the depletion of the ozone layer. This is a natural layer of ozone gas that absorbs most of the sun's ultraviolet radiation, and without it, life on Earth would be impossible. They correctly predicted that human activities would damage the ozone layer and that this could lead to a significant increase in skin cancer rates. Fortunately, they were wrong about this one. Thanks to international cooperation, the world has successfully protected the ozone layer, and it's slowly but surely recovering. But while we may have fixed one environmental issue, we've created many more. Climate change is now a serious threat to the entire planet, and we're just starting to feel the effects. People who live near coastlines are already feeling the rising sea levels, and extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and more intense. But we're still not doing enough to address the problem, and this could end up being the downfall of humanity. So what will the world be like in 2084? Humanity's fate hangs in the balance, and it all depends on the choices we make today. If we fail to address climate change, it could lead to the destruction of our planet. But if we're able to find sustainable sources of energy, we could enter a new golden age. Only time will tell what the future holds for us. But one thing is for sure, the world of 2084 will be unlike anything we've ever seen before. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue producing quality videos for you. And as always, thank you for watching.